anybody can learn from that and apply it. So if there was 2 or 3 adjustments, what would those things be?
Number one for sure would be the delaying the gratification. The biggest problem I had was
delaying the gratification.
That's a problem that a lot of young entrepreneurs have. And I learned that the hard way, is that good things take time. And there were some moves I made that made me a lot of money in the short term, but then created problems for me over the long term. And for example, like Steve Madden's Shoes is one of my companies, right?
I remember that. Yeah.
I was the majority shareholder of Steve Madden's Shoes. If I had not had that problem from all the stuff I did earlier, I would have made $700 million or $1 billion
just
on
off
that.
Of Steve Madden.
Just off of that one deal versus making $20, $30 million.
Got it.
Because I was forced to sell it too early, right? That's one example. And there's so many other examples just like that where, for instance, if I would have not gotten in trouble, I would have made the .com boom and been positioned to have the biggest firm out there during internet craze. I would have made it billions off of that. So while I made a little bit of extra money sooner, it cost me a lot more long term by not playing that sort of long game, playing the short game. And I think that's a big mistake a lot of people make. And it's something that I learned really was crystallized when I wrote my first book, The Wolf of Wall Street, because that took me a year to write. I didn't make anything while I was writing it. I mean, I got some advances, very small, right? And then lo and behold, over years, it turned into this amazing thing that just spawned an entirely new life for me. So I think that it was a classic example of something that you work really hard on something and it pays off down the road. So I think it's one major thing is that. The second thing is that I think that a lot of young people, it's not because they're bad, it's not about that, because I was a really good kid from a great family, never got in trouble. Often you think when you're younger, or even when you're older, if you haven't had this lesson taught to you the hard way, is that I can be half pregnant when it comes to ethics. Notice, I can be ethical, but maybe I can step over the line once and get away with it. The problem with that is that when you step over the ethical line once, your line of ethics moves a bit. So next time you step over, you'll step a bit further over the line.
That's such a good point.
Further. So with me, you know, I became desensitized to essentially right and wrong behavior. And it's very easy on Wall Street with a lot of people. As we found out in 2007, it wasn't just me, it was everyone.
Oh, but 50 times bigger than what you were doing. Some of these guys cost a lot of people money.
The point is, I always say, everyone's doing it. That's no excuse for me doing it. I did what I did, it was wrong. But the point was, it's very easy to point and say, well, everyone's doing it. So you have to...
That's such a good point.
You have to maintain your ethics. You really do. There's no...
How do you do that?
It's very simple. It really is very simple. You just don't take the first step.
Got it.
That's it. And that's the secret. There's no way you can't like just take a step and dabble it and be a good person. It's very, very hard.
You think once you go in, it's harder to come out of it, like to make a major shift out of it?
I don't think it's hard. I think it depends on how you were to start. In other words, if you were unethical your whole life, then that's who you are. For me, I was an ethical person. I never had a problem before. I never had a problem after. For me, it was very easy to find my ethical way because in my heart of hearts, that's who I was. So who you surround yourself with is going to impact you. And I really made some bad decisions in who I surrounded myself with. I just did. When people tell you you're the king, or you're this, you're that, when I was 24, that was intoxicating. You know, all these young kids all looking up to me. I didn't handle that well. I thought you start to think that like the normal rules don't apply to you. So, you know, it's who you associate with. It's understanding not to take the first step. And then people say, well, how do you know? Well, you know. You know, there's this feeling you get in your stomach. I think most, unless you're a sociopath, you know when you're not doing the right thing. You get this sort of feeling, maybe this, if you got that feeling, you're probably not doing the right thing, right? And then you have to be careful not to use the power of rationalization, because the human brain is incredibly adept at rationalizing. So you got to avoid that. And you know, all in all, I think, you know, for me, I'm fortunate that it ended up, I got a second chance, and that worked out really well. But for many people, you don't get.
That's right.
Just don't put yourself behind the 8 ball. Like, avoid that. You know, I don't mean don't fail. Fail. You should fail. Everyone should fail. I believe that. I learned more about when I failed than when I succeeded in business, right? But going out there and losing your ethical way is a choice that you make. And I don't care if I'm not saying don't do drugs. I'm sober, but I'm not like don't do drugs. I'm talking about actions that impact other people negatively. You get it? That doesn't end well. And you really have to realize there is this sort of energy in the universe, and there is karma, and you know, you want to be on the right side of that equation.